Ladies and gentlemen, you know what that means when you hear that sound. It is time for another episode of the Rec Poker Podcast, Forums Edition. Thanks for joining me this week. I'm your host, Jim Reed. And if you want to learn about me or any of these Wrecking Crew wreckers, you can go to rec.poker/crew and learn about them all. Another couple things you should learn about is Website AMP and Running Aces Hotel, Racetrack, and Casino. Thank you for being our sponsors and letting us do this show every week. So every week we get together, we battle it out in the Rec Poker home game. Every week I have the best job in the world, and I'm joined by this panel of recreational poker wizards. Panel, why don't you tell the gang where they can reach you?
Well, I'm John Somsky, and you can reach me at PokerGeekMN everywhere.
And I'm Rob Wasson, and you can reach me at Rabman50 everywhere.
And we are going to be looking at a forum post today from Keith Brandt, who goes by MonkieSystem. You may have heard his name in our podcast before, or maybe you've seen him streaming or playing in the home games. Keith is one of our premium members and a big part of what we do here at Rec Poker. Um, so Keith MonkieSystem Brandt writes in, facing a river lead. And the subject is uh, Keith. This has been a subject that was come up with Keith a couple times in the last couple months. We've been looking at turn and river play in some of our forums. We've been looking at post flop betting lines in some of our study groups. And I know Keith has been really interested in the theory behind leading out on the turn in the river and what kind of hands people choose to do that with. Um, so I'll just take us into the hand, and we can sort of talk about the ways that we might play it in that spot. So Keith says, when someone's been calling us and suddenly leads on the turn or river, what does this indicate? He says, I've used this move in the past when I was worried about not getting any more value for my strong hand. But if my opponent's been betting, why not just let him keep on betting and risk folding him out of the pot? And then there's this sort of question of, okay, well, if that's what I think he's going to do, then does he know that that's what I think? And are we in this leveling war? And so let's just take a look in the hand. And as he says, we kind of get into an endless loop thinking about trying to outsmart our opponent, right? And we end up often usually only outsmarting ourselves. I'm not sure if that's what happened here, but let's see. So this is a Poker Stars hand. It's a tournament hand. We're down to 5 players. So he doesn't say this is a final table, but if we're down to 5 players, I guess it could be a six-handed tournament where there was just someone sitting out. So we won't say for sure that it's a final table, but um, let's not include ICM considerations, but we could under some circumstances. So in this, the hero is under the gun with pocket sevens and has the effective stack with 28 big blinds. Um, so we open to 2.4 big blinds, which is fine. I think you could open to 2.25 if you wanted to save a couple little chips on your open size there, but 2.4 is fine. I think the effective stack was a little larger than ours, or the table average stack was a little larger than ours. And it folds around the small blind calls and the big blind folds. So we get to the flop with 2 players, 6.5 big blinds in the middle, and we've got about 26 back. To flop comes the 4 of clubs, 8 of clubs, 8 of spades, and the small blind checks, which they are going to do a lot of the time. And the hero is there with pocket sevens. So I think it's a pretty good board to c bet. These paired boards are good candidates like monotone boards to just put a c bet out there and see if you can take it away. Maybe they're not the perfect one for it, but I'd be c betting here. So does Keith. He chooses a small sizing, a little under 2 big blinds, and makes that c bet. Anything we want to talk about there before we move to the next level, gang? Doesn't sound like it. So I like the sizing, Keith, and the small blind calls, uh, and that all makes perfect sense. The turn comes the ace of hearts. So there's 10 big blinds in the middle, and the board is 4-8-8 ace with 2 clubs. Small blind checks again. It, I'm c betting here again. I think. Um, with my range. Am I doing it with exactly pocket sevens? I don't know if I'm doing it exactly with pocket sevens. Probably, I think so. Um, what do you guys think? Are you putting in a second C bet here? It's a pretty good card for our range.
Well, yeah, you can
Yeah,
represent the ace pretty easily.
it's a really good card for your range, but sevens has enough value that you could. I don't know. I don't. I wouldn't be opposed to checking behind with sevens either. So I don't think it's necessarily bad to bet here either. Um, but I think you could argue that it would be a check as well.
Yeah, it's that weird spot where it's a good card for us to be bluffing, but when we have a hand like exactly pocket sevens, we actually have a fair amount of showdown equity, and we're not really getting our chips in good here. So we're kind of turning it into a bluff, which I'm not sure we need to do against their range. So um, actually, maybe now that we talk about it, I prefer it as a check back, but you do need to get some value from some of those
Yep.
draws. The problem is the ace kills a lot of that action too. A lot of those cards that king jack, two over cards, um, it kills that action, which is why it's a good bluffing card when you're trying to bluff. Okay, so maybe Keith, we would have checked back, but pretty small beans to be complaining about there. So the river comes the six of spades. So again, the run out 4, 8, 8, ace, 6. The flush draw does not come in, and we are holding pocket sevens, so we're blocking some of the real value hands that could be in there, the straights essentially, and we're blocking some of the combos that could have an 8 as well. There's some 7/8s that they're not going to have, stuff like that. So it's a pretty good. We have a pretty good hand for blocking the nuts. But we still just have one pair on not a great board for one pair. So when the six of spades comes, the pot is 23 big blinds. And this is the spot that's really interesting to me. So the small blind leads into us for 6 big blinds, which is just a really funky sizing. On the turn, there was 10.5 big blinds in the pot. The hero bet 6.5, and the small blind called. So they're leading out for a smaller bet than they called on the previous street. So what's up with that? What's up with that, guys? For me, alarm bells are going off a little bit there. Not alarm bells like this person definitely has quad aces or quad eights, but alarm bells like something unusual is happening here. Any thoughts or is there one way that makes you lean when you see something like this, or do you see something like this often enough to have a take on it?
It makes it seem weird to me.
Hmm.
That bet size is just seems too small to me for this board run out.
Hmm.
The board isn't quite scary enough. I mean, you do have the straight that came in, but there's no flush possibilities. And unless this player actually hit the straight, which obviously, given our hand, is unlikely because we're blocking so many of the straights with our pocket sevens. It just really doesn't make sense unless it's just some type of a blocking bet. I could see a player maybe doing this with an ace because they want to get value from the ace, but they don't want you to bluff to make them call too much. The other times I see people lead out is if a big flush did come in and they know that you're likely to check behind, then they'll bet that out if they hit that. But in this particular case, it seems more weird than normal.
Yeah, the first question you ask yourself is what did he call the flop and the turn with, right? If he called the flop and a turn with an 8, is he afraid that you're going to check back the river and he's not going to get any value with that 8? The fact that we have an ace out there and you bet that you continuation bet the flop and you bet the turn with an ace, there's no reason for him to think that you're not going to continue on the river and triple barrel. So either he's betting small, hoping that it'll give you incentive to do a raise, go ahead and go over the top and raise your ace or whatever, or he's actually got an 8 and hoping to get some small sort of value, knowing that if you have an ace, you're going to call.
Yeah, I was thinking about that because it does feel like it is kind of consistent with him like hoping you have an ace, right? Like we made that C bet and then we hit our ace. And so now we've got a hand that if he does have an 8, this is the perfect spot, right? So then, but I was thinking about that and I feel like he could have clicked back the check raise for 6.5 big blinds on the turn, but he elected to call and then lead for 6 big blinds on the river. And it's like, if I had the 8, if I wasn't going to check raise, it would have been because I wanted to get more value on the river. And by making that really small bet, like my first take is that that's a value bet. But what hand is value betting that small that doesn't choose to just make it a click back on the turn and then still get some value from some of the draws? Like there's still 2 clubs out there, I think, at that point, and I don't know. And maybe we're projecting too much on our opponent here.
Well, he could do that with pocket sixes, right?
Right.
And all of a sudden he hit his full house. Now he's
Yeah.
going, oh shoot, how am I going to get value for this? I got the veritable nuts here.
Yeah, because I think aces, a lot of those aces, if we do have an ace, I guess we're probably checking behind with some of those, right, on that paired board. So maybe he's thinking we're not going to get value. He's not going to get value from some of those.
Or maybe he's trying to get, in that particular case, he could be trying to get value from a single pair with the straight draw or something that missed still.
All right, well, let's see if Jonathan Little has any insights about maybe our opponent missed the flush draw or maybe he had ace king or something. Let's see if we can drill down into that.
Have you ever wondered whether you should call a preflop raise or 3-bet instead? What do you do when you have a flush draw? Do you raise it or do you just call? What do you do with ace king when you miss the flop? Are you tired of guessing about what the right play is with your particular hand? Well, my name is Jonathan Little, and I am a 2-time World Poker Tour champion and creator of PokerCoaching.com, where we offer over 1,000 interactive hand quizzes where you play a hand and then get real-time feedback from our world-class pros. Don't guess and don't stress. Just register for your free account at PokerCoaching.com/recpoker right now.
That offer is only valid for people that want to get better at poker. Just to be clear, if you don't want to get better at poker, do not go to rec.poker/resources and click on the link there to join Jonathan Little's PokerCoaching.com. Because if you do, I warn you, you will get better at coaching, at poker. God damn, almost got it there. So,
all right, how about this? He's got an ace X of spade or clubs, right? And he didn't check raise because he was hoping to hit the flush and get more chips out of you. No, that doesn't make sense. He still would have checked raised the turn with ace X of clubs, right?
Yeah, that's
when the ace comes in.
Yeah, like why didn't he check raise the turn? That's the thing I can't understand. To put a smaller bet in on the river, because the one thing about the river, the tiny bet on the river, is that he's choosing not to add any fold equity to it. So it probably isn't a bluff. It could be a bluff, I guess.
Some people use the small sizing as a bluff,
right?
Thinking that, well, he's how can he call this? It has to be value, right?
Value, right?
So small. I'm giving him the odds to call.
Yeah, that's that leveling war we get.
Counterintuitive, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's what Keith is struggling with here, because so Keith is sitting here with pocket sevens on ace 8-8-4. Wait, is that right?
Ace 8-8-4-6.
Ace 8-8-4-6. Yeah. So he's got third pair. but he's been playing it more strongly than third pair. Our opponent is representing that they have third pair beat. So I don't think Keith can just kind of like value call and expect to be ahead a lot. He can be ahead of some of the bluffs. He can be ahead of like the paired 6 hands that the guy ended up with, right? Some weird
5-6.
6-9, 5, yeah, exactly, something like that was sticking around for whatever reason.
Well, 5-6 has a gut shot.
Yeah, yeah, and there could have been a couple clubs in there too, so that's possible.
Right.
It could be some very draw stuff. But then they're not playing that as a bet. They're not leading the river with
No,
a 6, right? They're
Well,
just
you would-
checking that and trying to get to
you
showdown.
would think they aren't, but
You would think they aren't, yeah.
that would be a hell of a bluff.
So what are we beating? Like, what are we beating that's taking this line? A naked 6,
A naked 6 or a busted flush draw without the ace.
a busted flush draw without the ace. Yep. That we have. I don't know if we have the 7 of clubs or not. I'm not sure. We do. We do have the 7 of clubs. So that takes out a couple of those different combos of bluffing candidates that they could have. So it's this really weird spot where they're betting 6 big blinds into 24. And I mean, I'm considering folding. Like,
And what does the population do? You know,
right.
what does a population in this size tournament, what are they going to do there? And I have a note on my computer when I'm playing small ACR tournaments,
Yeah.
and that note says they always have it. Just to remind myself when I see this bet on the river that
Yeah.
I've called too many times and just said, how could you have that hand?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm coming around to that notion. So I'll scroll through and I should say to folks, we don't get, if you're interested in the subject matter, just get a free account at rec.poker and go check out the forum post yourself, because you can see, Keith, he enters all this stuff into solvers. He uploads, he shows like screenshots of the different stages of his solve, so you can see what the solver thinks at different points. He's in there node locking so that your opponent takes certain actions, so he can get the read for you. So go check out the forum post itself. We're not going to go through all the details of the post here, but we get a good point here by I'm a Luigi. One of the members is typing into the forum post here that says, yeah, you have to consider villain's river sizing. You're getting 5-1 in a call, so this bet sizing has very little fold equity, so it's heavily weighted towards value. And I'm a Luigi also says, checking the turn makes your life a lot easier on the river and controls pot size, and it gives villain a chance to bluff their misdraws. I strongly favor turn check back, as you should be checking back some of your ace-x hands for balance. And I think that's right. I think I'm Luigi nailed the analysis there. I think given the exact circumstance, I think that does play better. And then I think you can snap call this bet, because you've really weakened your range. You've included now they have a bunch of bluffs that they might not have, because this feels like a bet that the out of position player is making, targeting your pair ace, your one pair of aces hands. This feels like they've got you on an ace and they're trying to get paid. Whether it's, and with the paired board, I guess that's oh, Rob, you're muted, just for the record.
Yeah, you've shown a lot of aggression so far, and he's let you bet in, bet, and then you just check, bet, call.
Yeah.
And he's let you bet, and now he's worried that you're not going to bet.
Right.
So he wants to get a little bit more value out of you. I think that's what it is.
So then what about why the sizing? So the only other thing we haven't really talked about is the blocking bet here, because I think it could be this sort of, he's got the quad eights, right? And that's why he's kind of slow paying it, because he had the board locked up. Could have quad eights. So here's a very small value bet. I think they probably could get value from an ace with a bigger bet. So that makes me. I think John mentioned earlier the notion that maybe this was a blocker bet with a. Now, John, when you're talking about that in this context, ace high board, 2 8s on board. What's the hand value that we're thinking about when we make that blocker bet? Like, what is the type of hand we'd want to do that with, or that we think this player might do that with?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that it with this board it is a good play, but the type of board I would think would be something like they have one of the other cards paired, or an under pair to the ace.
Yeah.
Where they think they have enough value that they want to see the showdown, but not so much. They don't want to pay any price for it.
They could have an ace with a crappy kicker.
Yep.
You know, a suited ace that missed everything, and you know, ace deuce, ace three type hand. And you're thinking, well, you know, the ace could be good here, but if he has an ace, he's probably got a bigger kicker. But why would you bet that? You would just check it down, wouldn't you, and hope your ace is good.
I think I would. That's the way I try and get those. That I think about those like minimum value hands out of position. I'd be more inclined to value bet them in position.
Right. I just can't think of a hand that he would bet this way that we beat.
So it feels like the panel is leaning towards fold here against the entire range as played. I think he definitely could have some hands that we beat here, but I'm not sure he has them often enough. But the bet is so small. Oh God, am I just a degenerate? Am I just unable to? I just want to see those cards all the time.
I can tell you in game, I would probably, as long as I felt I had enough chips, I would end up calling just to figure out what the heck is going on, because this play seems so strange to me.
Yeah. And maybe that's what, and so I guess that's part of the answer, Keith. MonkieSystem, for when you're writing in, like some of these times it's just weird. Like I wish we could have turned this guy's hand over to see if he had, to see how many 8s he had in his, in his head.
You know, we've had some conversation in some of the other groups about poker tracker stats. And one of the poker tracker stats that we ask people to look at is calling river bets. And what is your big blinds per 100 when you call river bets? Right. Most people are losing when they call river bets. So if you look at your poker tracker stats, call a river bet and just check it out. I mean, you're going to find out that you're minus BBs per 100 when you do that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, typically if you get to choose between betting or calling, betting is going to be a better way to win poker tournaments, but it's those tricky spots, and it's like we get in these places, and it is fun, right? Like it's fun to make those calls where you get to see that weird bluff, and
well, and the thing is you never want to think, when someone bluffs you, you think, wow, they really pulled it over on me. And the truth of the matter is most people don't bluff with the optimum frequency.
Yeah.
They don't bluff enough. So even when they pull it over on you, they're really losing money because they're not doing it often enough. So if you just realize that and fold and read Rob's little note saying they always have it, then you'll probably be ahead of the game.
I think that's right. All right. Well, thanks, guys. I always enjoy these little hand history conversations. So I'd like to thank Running Aces Hotel, Racetrack, and Casino, website AMP, MonkieSystem, and I'm a Luigi for typing some great comments in there. Rob, John, Steve Fredlin, thanks everybody, and we'll see you again soon.